Folks, it's pretty hard out there these days for video game journalists and reviewers. They catch a lot of flack online. So today, we're gonna see what happens when video game editorials intersect with my specific niche, which is fighting games. So IGN put out this video, the top 10 fighting games of all time, written by IGN staff. So we're gonna be taking a look. We can comment on whether I agree with their picks. We can maybe nitpick problems I have with the list if that ends up happening. And more interestingly, I think a lot of times it's just good to see what the more normal people think about this pretty niche genre. I'm so entrenched in the competitive fighting game community. Sometimes it's nice to just get an outside perspective. So let's hop right in. I have not watched this video. I've seen number 10. I spoiled myself. I watched the first one and I was like, you know what? I should watch this for a video and not just watch it myself. So let's hop right in. And I'll give my thoughts on what these picks are. What's here at number 10? All right, they're doing Mortal Kombat 9. Mortal Kombat 2011. I'm just gonna hit pause right off the bat. I feel like clearly they're weighting sort of importance, right? I think that not many people would say MK9 is the best Mortal Kombat, like, in a vacuum. I think most people would prefer 10 or maybe even 11. 9 has some issues, don't get me wrong, it's still a great game, but I feel like in terms of importance, 9 is probably the most important Mortal Kombat game, other than, like, maybe 1, 2, or 3, because it revived the franchise, it got the competitive fighting game community really involved in the franchise again, it brought Mortal Kombat to being a top-tier fighting game franchise in terms of prestige. So I think it was huge in terms of that. In terms of just, is it the best Mortal Kombat? I probably would not say yes, even though I do think it's good. I think 10 probably improved it in a lot of ways, but let's see, what do the editorials think here?
Creative fatalities were all gone in lieu of a back-to-basics approach that focused on the actual combat above all else. It turned out to be the best possible decision for the series, because Mortal Kombat 9 brought the legendary fighting series back from the brink, thanks to its...
Yeah, I think that's for sure. Like, Mortal Kombat games, they all sold pretty well. Like, MK versus DC, like, I'm sure it sold millions of copies, right? But in terms of, like, the future of the franchise and keeping Mortal Kombat relevant for future years and maybe even decades, I think 9 really brought things back. So I agree with that. I don't think that 9 is the #1 best Mortal Kombat, but I do think it's probably the most important one, at least in the modern era.
Excellent story mode, copious amounts of fan service, and redone mechanics that laid the foundation for subsequent games to follow.
Yeah, let me also just comment on the single player and the story mode and stuff. Like, I talked about this in another video I did where I did the top 10 fighting games according to Metacritic scores. And yeah, single player is huge, guys. I don't play fighting games single player that much. I'm a multiplayer guy, but single player is huge if you want to get that casual audience. So shout outs to MK9. I think that makes sense here at number 10.
It certainly was not the most balanced fighting game in the world, but that was part of its charm, and its imperfections are actually one of the reasons why many fans still prefer MK9 over 10 and 11 to this day.
Okay. I agree with the sentiment that it's part of what makes MK9 fun is the brokenness. It's kind of broken in a fun way. But is anyone like, I prefer 9 to 10 because 10 is not broken enough? Like, no one thinks 10 is really broken too, in a very fun way as well. MK11, I feel like the biggest criticism is they played it too safe. They pared stuff back. They made it less fast, less over the top, which I totally kind of agree with that people might prefer 9 to 11 because 11 was a little too safe, but 10 was not very safe, guys. 10 was crazy too. 10 was really crazy. All right, coming in at number 9, we got Skullgirls. A game near and dear to my heart. Evo third place finisher in Skullgirls right here, guys.
But there's more to Skullgirls than just its looks. Skullgirls has one of the most flexible fighting game systems ever made. Every character has a ton of different combo routes, and you can...
Yes, okay, yes, this is true. Skullgirls, anything combos for the most part. Like, you can really do whatever you want. You're only limited by, the infinite protection and like the undizzy bar that fills up as you do a combo. You can really combo like anything. So that's a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, it's a good thing because it's fun and because, you can be creative and you can spend hours in the lab and never get bored. But it can cause some problems too, like crazy touch of death combos, ridiculous unseeable 5-way resets and stuff. So it can make the game a little hard to get into for new players, I think. But yeah, definitely a fun game. And like you pointed out, the art in this game is like some of the best ever in a fighting game, especially when you consider this game's like a decade old. It still looks better than like 99% of fighting games.
Play
Pretty
as a
crazy.
solo character with increased health and damage, a balanced duo team, or fill up your squad with 3 characters that are weaker, but offer the advantage of extra assists and combo extensions.
You know, that's interesting, actually. I feel like people don't talk about the variable team size in Skullgirls very much at all. At least in my circles, it's just kind of a feature that is just there. No one really brings it up. You know, everyone has their preferred team size, and it just is what it is. But actually, I think that that's probably a pretty smart thing, because if you look at, you know, people talking about games like Marvel or like, let's say, the upcoming Project L, there's a lot of people who are like, I don't really want to play a team, either because, you know, the idea of having like assists is overwhelming, or they're worried that the assists are going to make the combos too crazy and complicated, or it's just the fact that you only want to put effort into learning your favorite character. You don't want to have to learn 2 or 3 characters. So it is kind of a nice feature to have the ability to have 1, 2, or 3 characters. I take that feature for granted, but it is kind of nice actually for people who have their preference between team and solo games.
Add in memorable character design, art style, and music on top of silky smooth gameplay and net play, and it's no wonder Skullgirls still thrives 10 years later.
Are you guys surprised that he brought up the net play? Wait, maybe these people aren't casual at all. I thought this is IGN. These guys aren't serious, but yeah, Skullgirls, back when it came out, had like the best online of any fighting game, and it still probably does. Like, it's still up there. It's got GGPO, and it's got GGPO that's implemented in a very extremely powerful way. They're doing tricks that no other game is doing to you know, reduce the impact of lag in this game. So really awesome stuff, and I'm glad they pointed that out. All right, number 8, VF5. You know, I'm not a big Virtua Fighter guy. VF5 Ultimate Showdown was the first one that I even played. But I know that this series is beloved, and when I did my video about most highly reviewed fighting games, VF5 was really high up there, so I'm interested what he has to say
Virtua
here.
Fighter 5 Final Showdown was the final arcade and console iteration of Sega's premier 3D fighter, and Ultimate Showdown rebuilt the game on Yakuza's Dragon engine for modern consoles.
Ultimate Showdown, it's a pretty game. It's a really beautiful game, for sure, considering it still has the bones of original VF5.
Creator of Shenmue and Space Harrier, and Toshihiro Nagoshi, longtime head of the Yakuza series, helped craft a series focused on grounded martial arts, vast movement, attack, and counter options, and characters that became instantly iconic. Virtua Fighter 5 represents the peak of this design, with gameplay that still feels true to its roots, yet distinct from any other fighter out there, and improves on the series' online features. And
I do agree that VF5 is really distinct. I think if you look at it, you probably think, oh, is this like a Tekken clone? Is this the fabled Tekken-like? But it's actually really different, and the fact that it's just a 3-button game and only 2 attack buttons. Like, it's so interesting playing a game with only 2 attack buttons and still having it be like so deep and you know, rewarding you so much for putting time in. It is a very unique game for sure.
And although some single-player offerings have been removed from earlier versions of Virtua Fighter 5, Ultimate Showdown is the easiest way to play the latest entry on modern hardware. With incredibly high ceilings for execution, such as moves that require input windows as small as 1/60th of a second, and characters that are fun to just mash buttons on, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown is a must-play for fans of 3D fighters and the genre as a whole.
I actually think that's a pretty insightful point, that there are characters that are fun to just mash on, and there are characters where like it doesn't really feel like mashing does that much, and you have to like invest a lot of time. And I think Tekken has that quality too. I think Tekken definitely, it has like the Eddie Gordos who, you know, you just press all the buttons and crazy stuff happens, but it also has like the Heihachis where you have to be a little bit more technical. So yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Better run home to mama now.
All right, number 6, Killer Instinct. Let's go. Such an underrated game, man.
Killer Instinct proved the series was more than the Mortal Kombat imitator some claimed it to be.
People don't respect KI enough, man. The remake. I have no opinion on the old KIs, but the new KI is goated.
Teaching tool the genre has ever seen. It doesn't just teach you how to play Killer Instinct, it teaches you how to play fighting games, full stop. And is
okay, we're getting a shout out to the tutorial. That's interesting. I think this is the first tutorial mentioned on the list. I don't remember KI's tutorial being like that special, but obviously I'm not the target demo. So that's kind of
Required
cool.
reading for anyone trying to learn the genre. What's more, Killer Instinct is packed with great single-player content, and no matter how you play it, it looks great and has a killer soundtrack.
I have not played any of the single-player content in KI. I've only played online. I can't comment on
Whether
that.
you're yelling along with the announcer while pulling off an ultra combo, landing a perfectly timed combo or counter breaker, or just learning a new character in training mode, Killer Instinct feels great to play and has the technical depth any great fighter needs while remaining unique. Now, if only
It is also unique. That is for sure. Both this and VF are really, really unique and not like any other fighting game. So that, you know, that's another thing that like I don't want to feel like I'm being overly generous to this list, but I actually feel like they're making some points that I don't think about that much. Like for me, it's like, okay, I love Street Fighter, so like Street Fighter 2, 3, 4, like they're not that unique, but I love them all. But these games are actually like bringing something new to the table, so that is kind of cool. I don't really think about that. I do love KI. I always say that KI, obviously the combo breaker stuff and like the like crazy super long combos and like counter breakers, it's a very like extreme game in terms of like mechanics. It feels like there's a lot going on, but just in terms of like ground game and footsies and fundamentals, I think KI is so rewarding. And it's very fast too, like even just walk speed and move speed, the speed of your attacks as well. It's a very fast and fluid and fun and nice ground-based footsies game. I really appreciate KI. What's next? Number 6. Marvel 3! Okay, I love Marvel 3. But I know they said at the start that there's only one game per franchise on this list. Okay. This is the first one I disagree with. Don't get me wrong. I like Marvel 3. And I understand that there are many, many people who Marvel 3 is their favorite Marvel game. But Marvel 2, man. Marvel 2 is the classic. You can't take away my Marvel 2, man. Marvel 3 has X Factor. It has Virgil. It has Dark Phoenix. It has Zero. Okay, Marvel 2 has some broken stuff too, so maybe I'll give him some credit.
Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is set apart by its character balance, or lack thereof, and team construction.
Lack
Many of the
thereof.
characters are broken
That's
in a
for
way
sure.
that only Marvel can get away with, and being able to put 3 of these characters together, each with one of 3 assist options in varying orders, creates a sandbox of possibilities. You can
That is true,
control.
and I will say Marvel 3 has a lot more viable characters than Marvel 2. At tournament level, Marvel 2 only has like 12 viable characters at like, you know, tournament top 8 level. Marvel 3 tournament top 8, we're seeing Arthur, MODOK, crazy off the wall picks. Obviously like Hulk, Sentinel, Hagar is the Evo winning team, so almost every character in this game is viable, which because they all just do 100% combos off every hit. So everyone's viable because they all just kill you, or they all just pop X Factor 3 and kill your whole team. So every character is broken and every character is viable in this, which there are a lot of terrible characters in Marvel 2.
As you perfectly execute an infinite combo 1 game and question your life decisions as you're stuck blocking Soul Fist non-stop without having a chance to move.
Ooh, look at IGN guy doing the Soul Fist loops. Let's go. Assuming that they recorded their own footage for that. Surely they did.
Another death combo and make one execution error on the
doing them
character
slowly,
just
but
to watch your whole team die to a level 3 X Factor comeback.
Yeah, dude, X Factor 3 Strider
is worth it.
Is
It's
crazy.
fast, flashy,
Oh,
and
let's
the
go,
combo
Hulk
system
Hagar.
is ridiculous. It will garner your attention and take you for a ride.
Yeah, Marvel 3, that might be the first one I'm not fully on board with, just because I personally prefer 2, but it's fine. We'll allow 3. Looks like number 5. Of course they're doing 13. They're gonna piss off all the KOF old heads are gonna be mad that they picked 13. And not like 2K2 or 98 or you know, 15 or something. 13, I have the most fond memories around 13 because I feel like the Evo era of 13 being an Evo game was so incredible. It was like some of the best Evo Grand Finals of all time were for KOF 13. But like gun to my head, if you forced me to pick which KOF game to put on this list, I would probably put 15, to be honest. I don't know. Is that crazy? 15 has the best online of all the KOF games. I feel like it's pretty balanced. It has a large roster. They have a lot of moves. KOF 13, some characters are missing moves. But obviously 13 is the most beautiful KOF. That's for sure. And, you know, it has a lot of nostalgia for people. So I understand it
Fighter
being on
series
this
has
list.
a number of great entries, with many choosing 98 and 2002
Yeah,
as their favorites.
those are the
and
old
15
school
receiving
picks,
a lot
98
of
and
love as the
2K2,
newest
and
entry.
Ultimate
However,
Match.
for our money,
2K2
it's KOF
Ultimate Match.
13 that remains one of the best fighting games of all time. The super detailed pixel art, pace of play, and hyperdrive combo system all helped KOF have a resurgence in the competitive and casual fighting game scene that continues to this day.
That's another good point, actually. Similar to MK9, this game kind of revived KOF in a way because, you know, a lot of people like 11. A lot of people like 11 a lot. But I don't feel like 11 was like that big. Maybe I'm going to get flamed for this. I don't feel like 11 really caught on in like the general FGC. It was just kind of played by the KOF heads. And then 12 was like a disaster. 12 almost like killed the company. So 13 definitely brought the franchise back in a big way. It got a lot more attention on KOF than it had for a few years. So in terms of just like importance, I think it might be one of the most important
Although
KOFs.
the infamously difficult combo trials remain, they're not even necessary to use while playing. The characters, team-based combat, and beautiful animation keep this particular
Yeah,
game
it
on the
is
throne.
beautiful anime. Look, I'm getting blinded here by the light. Yo, Dragon Ball number 4. I think that this is a fair pick. Personally, my own personal bias, I would probably put Dragon Ball a little lower. I would probably put it like 7 or 8. I know a lot of people found my channel through Dragon Ball. I still like the game. I think the biggest strength of Dragon Ball is that it is very easy to pick up. I think it's one of the best beginner fighting games ever. Like, it's one of the most fun fighting games. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you can just, you know, do your auto combos, do your super dash, build whatever team you want, go crazy, and it's a blast. But it does have some like pet peeves that I have with the game. Like, I feel like the characters play very similarly. I feel like block strings and stuff are very long in this game because mix is generally a little weaker than in a game like Marvel. So I have my pet peeves with the game, but you know, I think it's fair to put it at 4.
Not
It's
only
just
is Dragon Ball
personally
FighterZ
my own
finally a good
personal
Dragon
bias.
Ball
Putting
game,
it above
but it's an
Marvel is a little bit
amazing
crazy.
fighting game in its own right. The first thing you'll notice is the presentation. It is
Beautiful.
stunning
That's for
to look
sure.
at.
It's
And
another
some
one of like the
haymakers,
best looking
super
fighting
dashes,
games, without a
and
doubt.
Energy beams give the action the punch it really needs. You can freeze nearly any frame, and you might think it's straight from the anime.
Yeah,
But
it
the
is
presentation
beautiful.
will make you
And like in
pause for a
terms
fan.
of like reverence for the source material, it's incredible like how closely it matches the manga and the anime. It's really insane. Like the amount of like fan appreciation that is clearly there behind the scenes of this game
favorite
is
characters,
really
3v3
amazing.
tag system, an approachable auto combo system that makes doing flashy combos easy for beginners, and you have one of the most fun to play fighting games in recent memory, with competitive legs that still endure to this day. And with the recent announcement of rollback netcode, Dragon Ball FighterZ
True,
has
we
a
still
very
haven't gotten that
bright
rollback
future
netcode, guys. I'm waiting. All right, number 3, Tekken 7. Tekken, you know, for a long time, I used to say that I had like a Mount Rushmore of fighting games that I thought were like the 4 best fighting games ever. And I used to put Tekken 7 on that Mount Rushmore. It might have slipped a little bit. To air I love Tekken 7. It's actually low-key one of the fighting games that I've put the most time into. A lot of people might not know that because I haven't done that many Tekken 7 videos. But I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into Tekken 7, and I like it quite a bit. But to air some of my grievances, obviously, the online is a pain. Tekken is 3, meme notwithstanding. The online, you get a lot of laggy matches, and between every match, there's like 35 seconds of loading, which is really annoying. So the online is a pain, and the DLC balance has been generally problematic, let's just say. They've broken the game a few times with the DLC. I felt like it was really balanced at launch, but the DLC, oh, I don't know. But I still like Tekken 7. It might have fallen off my Mount Rushmore. To spoil the other games, I'll tell you guys at the end because I feel like some of the other games on my Mount Rushmore are gonna be said by the end of this list. So let's wait and see. But what do they have to say about Tekken 7?
Tekken has always been known as one of the most difficult fighting game franchises. Its 3D movement adds layers of complexity. There are over 50 characters
Plus they
each
got
with well
they
over
got
100
the
moves apiece,
the
and
piano
simple
theme.
act of moving backwards properly
Classic
requires
song.
practice. Its depth and complexity make it every bit as demanding as it is rewarding, and those who put in the time will be rewarded. What sets Tekken 7 apart from other entries in the series, and earns it a spot here, is how much it improved in accessibility without cutting back on its depth.
I think that's true.
Returning to 1v1 from the 2v2 format in Tekken Tag Tournament 2 cuts the amount of moves you need to remember in half, but all of the characters individually
Yo,
are
M.
just as
Bison?
complex as they were, if not more. Rage arts and rage drives are exciting comeback mechanics but will never beat out solid play. And while the slow-mo finishers don't change much of anything to the gameplay, they have created some of the hypest moments in tournaments.
All right, so I love the slow-mo. I think the slow-mo thing is one of the most brilliant fighting game features we've had in a while. But rage drives and rage arts, I get it. I get why they're in the game. It's because they're hype. They're, especially for new players, it's hype to just be able to like press 2 buttons and you have like a crazy cinematic move. That, and like I feel like Tekken, it can be hard to follow because the flow of Tekken is so unique. It's like, oh, like whose turn is it? Like they're just like shimmying around, Korean backdashing, like as opposed to like Street Fighter. I feel like it's way easier to just look at and understand what's going on if you don't play the game. Tekken, it can be hard to understand what's going on if you're not playing, but you can understand, okay, his life bar is flashing red. He has access to like his big crazy cinematic rage art. So I get that, but they're also kind of annoying. They're kind of annoying features to me. Am I just a hater? Rage drives and rage arts are kind of annoying, man. Don't you just hate it when you're doing so good? You're like destroying the guy and then he just random rage arts on wake up and you happen to be doing a move and armors through you. Bro, that's so annoying. So maybe I'm just a hater, but yeah.
Tekken 7 hits
I'm
the
not
balance
crazy
of attracting
about
an
rage drive and
audience
rage
without
art.
alienating hardcore fans perfectly.
Okay. I do think Tekken 7 is probably my favorite Tekken game, so I think it's fine to have on the list. Similar to Dragon Ball, I think maybe I would put it a little lower. I think I would put Marvel above Tekken 7, for example. But anyway, what's number two? I actually can't tell what this is by looking at it. Is this Guilty Gear? Oh, it is. Okay, Strive. Strive. Huh? They're gonna make the purists mad by picking Strive. They said only one game per series. Strive at number 2. I mean, Strive's probably the Guilty Gear game I put the most time into. But gun to my head, I would probably pick Accent Core because Accent Core, it's a little faster, it's a little crazier, the combos are more fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, Strive is really fast too, but like certain things in Accent Core, like air dashing and stuff, are a lot faster. And like ground movement for a lot of characters is faster too, right? So like gun to my head, and this is also just biased because Axel is pretty crazy in Accent Core. My boy Axel, and then they've nerfed him into the ground repeatedly in Strive, so there's definitely bias in place. But yeah, you know, Strive, I understand why it's on the list. And again, Strive is beautiful, man. This is one of the best looking fighting games ever. It's crazy.
The Guilty Gear series has been pumping out excellent fighting games for more than 2 decades. But Guilty Gear Strive is where Arc System Works' flagship title finally found mainstream success.
That's also true. If we're rating like importance, again, kind of like I talked about with the games earlier, like Mortal Kombat being the most important Mortal Kombat, Strive is probably the most important Guilty Gear. Like, this game sold so much better than every other Guilty Gear combined, and I feel like it really brought Guilty Gear into like the conversation in general gaming. Like, you hear like regular gamers know about like, oh, Totsugeki memes and stuff like that, which I don't really think ever happened before with Guilty Gear. So it's definitely a very important Guilty Gear in terms of achieving mainstream recognition. So,
and for good reason. Strive sports the best rollback netcode in the business.
That's true. That's good rollback. Not the best in the business. Not as good as Skullgirls.
Netcode alone does not
because it's fixed delay.
Strive also refined the series' notoriously technical gameplay, making it easy to pick up and understand without losing the depth or the diversity of Guilty Gear's gonzo cast.
Okay. This is where things get spicy. I do agree that they did make the game simpler without sacrificing some things. Some things are just as deep and technical and enjoyable as other games, but a lot of things are not. In particular, the number one thing to me that comes to mind, I know that this is such like a 3-year-old complaint, but the Gatlings, man, the Gatlings. I know that this is such like a noob thing to complain about. I pretend that I played old Guilty Gear and complain about how the Gatlings are gone, but like maybe I shouldn't say the Gatlings. The combos in general, the combo routes in general in Strive, I feel are pretty limited compared to what you might experience in the earlier games. So like I just feel like when I play this game in training mode, I like get bored and run out of things to do fairly quickly. Maybe that says more about me and my own lack of skill or creativity. It's possible. But yeah, in terms of like the freedom in the game and like the ability to be creative when you're coming up with combos and to like find cool specific stuff that like, oh, only this guy ever does this combo, no one else does that, like that kind of exists in Strive, but not to the degree that, again, I was never a huge Guilty Gear player, but I did play Xrd and Accent Core Plus R somewhat. I felt like a little bit of that was missing in Strive, so I half agree. They did make the game a lot simpler, and it did affect the game in some negative ways. It's a sacrifice that they made to make the game more appealing to outsiders and to newcomers. And so you can't do that without sacrificing some aspects of the game, which they did. They did make some sacrifices,
Every
so it is what
one
it is.
Strive's 20 characters, whether it's series poster boy and rushdown monster soul bad guy, or the coffin-swanging Gold Lewis Dickinson.
Gold Lewis is
plays
sick.
Completely differently
Gold
from
Lewis
one
is cool,
another.
man.
So there's an enormous amount
Strive
to
might be
learn
the best Guilty Gear
even
just
if
'cause
you
he's in
only
it.
play a single character.
Did you
Add
see
in
the
Roman
damage, by the
cancels,
way?
which lets you cancel any action into another action, and Strive has an almost limitless level of player freedom and expression.
Okay. I mean, it's so subjective. It's so subjective to be like, no, it doesn't have freedom and player expression, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who, a lot of better players than me, probably feel like it does. But I just feel like you can't look at Strive and be like, it has just as much freedom and player expression or more than the previous games. I don't really think anyone could look at Strive and make that argument. Maybe I'm wrong. But I do agree the Roman cancel system is great. Strive Roman cancel system is really, really good. Possibly better than Xrd's. In some ways, it's definitely better than Xrd's. So the Roman cancel system is great. But freedom and player expression, I personally feel like you start bumping into the wall of, I can't do anything else because my character is limited. You know, my options run out at this point. Like I land this big counter hit and I want to do something crazy, but you know, none of my air combos work because this is Guilty Gear Strive, or none of my normals that I want to combo off are jump cancelable or that kind of thing. Like, or my Gatlings are gone. Like I land a 2K and I can't do anything except 2D because that's what the game says, because we've removed all the old routes. So I'll stop complaining, but that's just how I still like Strive, don't get me wrong, but I think to say that Strive has limitless player expression potential, or to say that it has just as much as the previous games, I don't necessarily agree. Sorry if people get mad at that. You can flame me in the comments, but that's just how I
Combine
feel.
all that with an excellent story mode, detailed teaching tools, tons of...
Also, excellent story mode. Okay. Okay, I said I was going to stop smack talking Strive. Excellent story. I like the story in Strive, but I don't think you can say it has an excellent story mode. It's just cutscenes. It's just cutscenes, bro. You can just watch them on YouTube and it's the same experience. I don't think it has an excellent story mode. I enjoyed watching the cutscenes, but like if you're a player who just wants to buy a fighting game and have a good single player experience, you don't want to watch 2 or 3 hours of cutscenes. You want to actually play story mode, like if it's Mortal Kombat or something like that. So I don't think I would say it has an excellent story mode.
Soundtrack spanning nearly every game in the franchise, and some of
soundtrack's
the most
great.
impressive visuals
That's
in the
true.
genre,
The soundtrack and jukebox mode are really great.
Taken the fighting game community by storm.
Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. I take it all back. This list is goated. They went full bias on number 1. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Strive, I guess, but maybe I shouldn't. So let's talk about Third Strike. Finally, they're doing something that appeals specifically to me. Obviously, there's so many memes about Third Strike. Like, nobody who says they play Third Strike actually play it. Everyone just, like, pretends because playing Third Strike gives you old school credit or whatever. There's memes like that, but Third Strike is kind of sick, man. I honestly think that if it's like, if you ask someone to say what's the best Street Fighter game, there's so many reasonable choices. You could say Super Turbo. You could say even like Hyper Fighting or Champion Edition. I think it's fine if those are your favorite. Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Third Strike, Street Fighter 4, even Street Fighter 5. Fine, if you want to say that's your favorite, I'll accept it. So I think any of those are reasonable. It largely comes to personal preference. For me, Third Strike probably is my favorite because, first of all, I think it's the most beautiful Street Fighter game. The art, the music and stuff is incredible. The character designs, the new characters that they came up with for the game are really fantastic as well. My boys, Necro, Makoto, Urien, all those guys are really cool. When I say that, I'm factoring in the whole Street Fighter 3 series, not necessarily just Third Strike. So yeah, the game has problems in terms of like balance. That's probably the biggest problem. Like Chun-Li and Yun are like so ridiculous. But it's just such an amazingly fun game.
Picking a single game to represent the most storied fighting game franchise was a tough ask.
Yeah, it's hard. I think that no matter what Street Fighter game you pick, you're gonna upset somebody.
Street Fighter 4 resurrected it when it hit home console.
You're gonna upset somebody no matter what you pick.
Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is something special.
Dude, it's so pretty, man.
The Daigo parry, and inspired an entire generation of players. But there's so much more to it than
It's so
that.
pretty.
The sprite work is still some of the most beautifully animated around. The backgrounds ooze style, and the jazz
And combos are so fun in this game too.
Best music in any fighting game. Even the roster, underappreciated at the time because of how few characters carried over from Street Fighter 2 and how weird several of the characters are.
They are
holds up
weird.
remarkably well,
That's
with
true.
options to suit any playstyle. But the real highlight is the parry system. The decision to make any attack, from Hadokens to Super Arts, parryable adds almost limitless depth to a series already renowned for it, while keeping it fairly easy to pick up and play for newcomers. Third Strike showed us what was possible, bringing the genre's most important series up to speed with its contemporaries while simultaneously elevating it to new heights. More importantly, all of it holds up today, something most games from 1999 can't say, and recent re-releases even support rollback netcode. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is, quite simply, the greatest fighting game ever made.
All right, Third Strike, greatest fighting game ever. It's high praise. It might be my number one, man. If we're talking about my personal list, it's obviously, it's going to be heavily biased. If I'm doing completely non-objective, completely just my own personal preference, I think I would probably do like Third Strike number 1, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 number 2. I kind of want to do Super Turbo, but they said only one game per franchise, so I can't do Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, right? Capcom vs. SNK 2 would probably be up there. Does that count? It's a versus game, but it's not a Marvel game. Does that count? Clearly, I just like Capcom games. I'm clearly so biased. And then what's my number 4? Killer Instinct, maybe. Killer Instinct is really, really good. It's incredibly good. Either that or Tekken 7. I guess I'll forgive Tekken 7 for having bad online. It's fine. It's still a really good game. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that this list is right? To be honest, I'm overall on board with the list. The only real things I disagree with, like, I don't necessarily disagree with putting Strive number 2. A lot of people love Strive. If you love Strive, I think that's totally fair. But some of his points, I personally disagree with, like just saying that, they didn't lose anything by making the game a lot more simple. I don't necessarily agree with that. And then I think, I wouldn't put Dragon Ball above Marvel, but again, that's just me because I'm a big Marvel fanboy. So yeah, that's what I think. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. What's your personal list? I would love to hear it, or your personal Mount Rushmore if you just want to cut it down to 4 like I did. Let me know. But with that, we're gonna end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.